Hello, everyone. It's the end of the year, so time for list. This list is my list of movies that were just super disappointing this year, movies that I thought might be better, and in the end, just truly disappointed me. Not saying any of these movies are bad per se. Some of these movies are actually really good. I just didn't love them like I thought I would, or my expectations were just not were just weren't met with these movies. Um, some of these movies might end up in my top 10 worst of the year list. I don't know necessarily because I haven't necessarily put it together. But these are just movies that were just disappointing for me in many different reasons that I will explain with each movie. So, um, yeah, we're just going to talk about disappointing movies. I've also done my list I posted earlier today about movies that surprised me in 2024. So, this is the list of movies that just were disappointing with me. Disappointed me this year. Starting with Civil War. Alex Garland, the director of Ex Machina, he also did Men, which I enjoyed back in 2022. I feel like I was the only one that did enjoy it. He also did that Annihilation movie that I didn't love. I know a lot of people did. Drinking what is it? Apple pie something from Starbucks. It's mostly gone by this point. Anyways, directed all those movies that a lot of people seem to like. Some of them not so much. Um, and he claims this is going to be his last movie he's directing, which I think is unfortunate because he is a good director. I wanted this movie to be more, but at the end of the day, it is still a really good movie. It's just not a movie that Ex Machina was like my number one movie of 2015. No, that's not true. My number two. Anyways, it was up there. And this movie, it's good. I it felt like something was missing from it. I guess you could say. Um, I don't know. I just didn't love this movie the way I wanted to. I think character motivations weren't exactly there. The acting was good though. Um, just it wasn't necessarily all there for me. And it's not rewatchable the way Ex Machina was. Um, I think even Men is probably more rewatchable than this. I hope Alex Garland changes his mind and starts directing again. Um, but if he doesn't, this was still a good last movie that he did. It is still good. I'm not saying it's awful by any means. I just wanted it to be more, and I just think my expectations were too high. I have not watched it a second time, and I think I need to watch it a second time. I believe it's on Max or something. I might have to check it out again. This is the most recent movie on my list here. Nosferatu. I was really looking forward to this, mostly because in 2022, Robert Eggers did the movie The Northman, which was basically Hamlet, just made original, essentially. He took the story of Hamlet and made it for Vikings, and it was epic and it was awesome, and he, it was literally Hamlet. And like I was watching it, like this feels very much like the last sequence in this movie. The last fight felt very Lion King to me. I was like, dang, that looks like in Lion King when he's fighting Scar. Um, so like I loved how at the end of the day it really wasn't original, but it felt original. He made something that wasn't original that's been around forever and made it original, and I absolutely loved that. And that's kind of what I thought he was going to do for Nosferatu. I can't say it. It really didn't. It has his style all over it, but at the end of the day, if you've seen Dracula or anything else, you've kind of seen this already. It looks beautiful. It's all done beautifully. Don't get me wrong. This is not a bad movie. This is a great movie. I just wanted it to be original, feel more original than it actually was, and it really didn't feel that original. It was just pretty to look at. I just wanted more. That's really why it made this list. It's just I wanted a little bit more from it. I thought this was going to be like in my top 5 of the year. Spoiler alert is probably not going to be in my top 10 of this year. I don't think it will. I would like to see it a second time, but I still don't think it would, even if I saw it a second time. It wasn't quite what I wanted to be. I wanted the Robert Edgars original take on this story, and instead, it's the same story we've seen 100 times over. So that is why it kind of made the list for me. Next up is Unfrosted. I love Seinfeld, both as a comedian and the TV show. This was his directorial debut. he started with this just as a joke like freaking 5 years ago or something, 6 years ago. He's been working this forever. It's got Melissa McCarthy, Amy Schumer. It's got Hugh Grant in it. It's got other famous people in it. This should have been a hit, and instead it just is not funny, and it has a lot of references to like things from the 50s and the 60s and stuff. It just felt like an inside joke that I didn't get. So I didn't laugh at this one. I didn't think it was funny. I didn't think the direction in this was really good. I didn't it's not realistic to anything that happened with Pop Tarts. So I don't know. It just felt like something that Seinfeld was like, "Hey guys, you want to hang out and film it?" It felt like an Adam Sandler movie in a sense. Like, "Hey guys, let's go vacation and have fun, but we'll also film it and try to make money off of it." And it felt like that. It felt like a commercial almost. Like I don't know. Didn't love Unfrosted, unfortunately. Next up is Trap. Um, Shyamalan has had some poop, 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 poop in his career. Starting with The Sixth Sense, which was poop, and then things kind of went down from there. Last year's A Knock at the Cabin, I really liked. I really, really, really liked that movie. So I was hoping that this would be an up, 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 and instead it's a down because Trap was just not so great. The dialogue was really weird. There's so many conveniences in this that just don't make any sense. Um, I love the idea of trapping in a killer at a concert, um, but it just didn't work. It's also felt like a big commercial for M. Night Shyamalan's daughter to, hey, I'm releasing music that I recorded. Like half this movie feels like his daughter. And you did it, Shyamalan. You got your daughter into a movie and you advertised her music. Did anybody actually like go to iTunes or anything and like download this music? I know I didn't. It wasn't memorable. It wasn't anything spectacular. Josh Hartnett was giving it his all. Um, but just certain things came off stupid and weird and just so convenient. All the way up to the last scene of this movie. Like, yeah, let's let the guy stop to fix the child's bike. No, just no. This movie, just the entire time, I was like, no, 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 no. Next up is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. A lot of people liked Ghostbusters Afterlife. I did not. I thought it was fine. Nothing spectacular. Um, it was fine. This movie's just not even really fine. It's just kind of so flippin' forgettable. There's so much going on. They are trying so hard to put these characters in from the last movie that don't make sense to be in this movie. They're trying to stuff in the old cast with the new cast, and it just feels like one big mess. And it just didn't work. The villain for me was really stupid. Kamal Nanjiali, I can't say his name. I just never can. Um, he's bad in this movie. It's going so hard for a joke, and I'm just rolling my eyes watching this movie. Um, yeah, this movie's not good. I'm kind of I don't I've said this so many times before. I don't want movies to fail. I want movies to succeed. But at the same time, I'm kind of glad this movie didn't do the greatest because I hope that we either stop with Ghostbusters or we stop and think about actually doing something better with it because the last three Ghostbuster movies we got have just not been great. And we need to just do something different or just stop because the original Ghostbusters is great. We don't need to play around with it anymore. We just really don't. And this movie just shows why. Next up is a movie everyone seems to be loving, Heretic. Um, this is another movie I really knew nothing about. I went into it, and the first hour was really, really interesting. It's pretty much a discussion on religion and why do you believe this, why is this okay but that's not, yada yada yada. And it was really interesting, and then the movie just turns into your basic horror movie that doesn't make sense, doesn't line up, and I just left this movie rolling my eyes. what's his name? Hugh Grant. That's his name, right? Hugh Grant. Yeah, yeah, yes. Hugh Grant. Excuse me. He is great. He's giving a great performance, but I just think the movie he's in doesn't know what. It's almost like they brought this movie in going, I want to make a movie discussing religion. And the studio was like, whoa, no, but if you put it in a horror movie, that's okay. Then you can do it. At the end, it was just, it was fine. Um, Not a bad movie. Once again, not a bad movie. The first half of the movie is really good. The second half for me is what kind of took it downhill and made it not rewatchable for me. But the movie was fine. I was just kind of disappointed by it because the first hour is so strong that it just goes so downhill from there that I just couldn't forgive it after that first hour. Next up is Argyle, a Matthew Vaughn movie. It has such a great cast. You got Sam Rockwell, Dallas Howard, you got Henry Cavill, Dua Lipa's in this movie, Bryan Cranston, what's her name? Kevin McAllister's mom, Catherine O'Hara. Good God, struggling with names again. I'm sick, guys. You got John Cena. You got Ariana DeBose. Great cast. Great cast. Samuel L. Jackson. I forgot Samuel L. Jackson. How could I forget Samuel L. Jackson? An amazing cast. Matthew Vaughn movie. Um, and it was set in a spy world, and it had the feelings kind of Kingsman, which I didn't love Kingsman, but it was a really fun time. And I thought this movie was gonna be a fun time. Instead, it's just way too boring, way too long, and just goes way too over the top and all over the place. The end credit scene to me just makes absolutely no sense considering Samuel L. Jackson is already in this world. Um, yeah, and you just underutilized Henry Cavill, Bryan Cranston. You underutilized all these things, and it got so ridiculous by the end. The ice skating on oil or whatever the hell I don't even remember. This came back like in January, and it was so bad. Um, I just wanted so much more from this movie. In the end, it just really was bland and boring and not at all from Matthew Vaughn like we should. It didn't. It's crazy that this guy made Kick Ass because this movie is not Kick Ass at all. It's not even close to being a Kick Ass. I just talked about this movie on my surprising movies of the year, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and how in a sense it was surprising that it still was as good as it was, but at the end of the day, it was still more disappointing for me. Um, Honestly, this could be in both lists. I almost don't feel like I should be talking about this one because it had to live up to War of the Planet of the Apes and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And while it didn't fully live up to it, it lived up to it. Um, it had some great characters and such like that. I was not expecting anything of it, especially. In fact, I'm just done talking about this movie because Wes Ball was the director that did the Maze Runner movies, and I didn't think those movies were anything great. So the fact that this movie was good is surprising me. So I'm done talking about this one. War or Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes really shouldn't be up here. It really looked great. It actually was a good movie. So pretend I'm not even talking about this one. I don't understand why I even put. I think I accidentally put this on my list. So forget that one. Next up is Furiosa: A Mad Max Saga. Um, I like this movie. This is not a bad movie. You're just talking to someone who saw Mad Max Fury Road 15 times in theaters. I love Mad Max Fury Road. And I went into this movie knowing that it was not going to be as good as the first, as Mad Max Fury Road. Um, I knew that it wasn't going to be as good. And in the end, it still disappointed me. The look of this movie is just not good. It looks too clean and sharp and digital, whereas Fury Road felt grimy and like projectiony. It felt like it was filmed in film, even though I think it was a digital movie. Like it's crazy how much this one just didn't look right. I like Chris Hemsworth as villain. I liked Anya Taylor Joy as Furiosa. I liked the other little girl who played Furiosa. Excuse me. Hated the performance of a Morton Joe. He just didn't sound right. This movie is supposed to take place not far before Mad Max Fury Road, and he just sounds so different. I get it, the actor died, but like the voice is just completely wrong. Like it was like putting in a woman's voice almost for a man's voice. Like it was so off, and he wasn't menacing anymore. Um, what else can I say about this? It just I don't know. There was a lot of things that I didn't love about it. I didn't think the action was as good. It felt like there was a lot of special effects more in this one. Um, there was if you've read that that the book or seen any documentaries or listened to it was a shit show podcast. The making of Mad Max Fury Road was terrible. It was awful, and it felt like they went, well, that was awful. Let's make it more positive, and it might have been more positive filming the movie, but it doesn't look as good. It doesn't feel as strong, in my opinion. It didn't feel like there was as much love put into this one. Um, this is one of those movies, though, that I wish it had done better at the box office because I would like to see more from this franchise, and I don't think we will. George Miller is in his 80s. I think only George Miller really should be working on these movies. Maybe in the future we'll see a reboot from someone who's just as passionate, and I'll be changing my mind on that. But George Miller, it is his baby, and it, I really wanted to love this, and at the end of the day, I really do like it. I just didn't love it. I didn't see it 50 times in theaters. I saw it twice in theaters, and I was like, it's also too long, way too long. Um, yeah, I wanted more from this. And at the end of the day, it's good. It's good. I just didn't love it, and I wanted to love this movie, and I didn't. Next up is Maxine. This is a movie that might be the most disappointing movie of the year for me because X was so good, Pearl was so good, and this is just so kind of generic. I do like many different scenes in this movie. I like the claustrophobia in this movie. I like the tension in this movie. I like a lot of different things from this movie. I like also that they based it in Hollywood and they are, like featuring the Night Stalker in it. They're really putting us in the times and how people were feeling at that time in Hollywood. I loved a lot of things in that aspect. Um, but the movie itself just kind of was, well, boring at times and just very formulaic, very generic. Kevin Bacon is great in this movie, but Mia Goth is also great in this movie, but like it just kind of goes nowhere. It has this very on the nose ending that you totally saw coming 100 miles away. It just didn't work like it wanted to. It wasn't doing what it was really trying to do and what it thought it was doing. And that was really disappointing for me. I wanted so much more from this movie, especially since I loved X and I love Pearl. And this movie just gave us something with one of the characters from those movies. So it was pretty disappointing for me. Next up, a movie that people are not going to love that I'm talking about, Deadpool and Wolverine. Another one of the movies that are most disappointing for me. Um, I love Deadpool. Deadpool 2 wasn't as good as Deadpool, but it was still really good for me. And the thing that I really love about Deadpool and Deadpool 2 is Weird Al. Um, I love the romantic relationship between him and what's her name? What's her name? What's her name? Vanessa. Vanessa. I love their romantic relationship. Even though she's not in Deadpool 2 that much, it's all about his love for her. And I just absolutely loved that. I love Negasena, Tonic, Teenage Warhead, and uh, Hugo or whatever the girlfriend's name. I liked seeing Colossus and such like that. I really like all the characters in Deadpool and Deadpool 2. And this third one literally does nothing with those characters. Some of them have like a line, and that is it in this movie. Completely sidelines them for Wolverine, which don't get me wrong, I like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Um, and I was okay with them bringing him back, especially since they did explain that in a very good way. Um, but I just still wanted the other character. Like, Deadpool literally goes back in time to save Vanessa. And she's barely in this movie. Not only that, they're broken up. Like, she didn't feel that he was there for her even though he went back in time to bring her back to life, it blew my mind that that was written that way. That like him and Vanessa are just no longer a thing anymore. I just that immediately was like, okay, why? Um, I was okay with him retiring as Deadpool and then kind of coming back. And a lot of this movie is literally just a farewell to the Fox universe. That's what this entire movie felt like. And it just doesn't really have that much of a story at the end of the day. The villain is absolutely forgettable and lackluster, and we've seen this story so many different times. It didn't feel like there was a lot at stake with this movie. While yes, there's some great funny jokes in there. Yes, there's some fun cameos that I did enjoy. At the end of the day, this movie is just kind of disappointing. I've watched this a couple times in theaters and a couple times at home now. It's not a bad movie. It's just not all that great. Constant references and stuff like that. I just the music choices don't exactly work for me necessarily. I just wanted so much more from this movie, and it just didn't quite give me what I wanted, and that was just super disappointing for me. Again, not a bad movie, but not what I wanted. Next up is Saturday Night. I was really excited for this movie. I love the idea of showing us the behind the scenes of something. And this movie just showed us behind the scenes in the most non-realistic way possible because I believe everything in this kind of happened, but not in the way it happened. For example, they lose a writer, and Lauren goes down to a bar and finds a new writer, and is back up in top of the skyscraper with a new writer. And it's like that did not happen that way. 5 minutes before they go on air, Chevy, you be the host of Weekend Update. That did not happen that way. I guarantee it. Just so many little things like that. I'm like, that did not happen that way. This does not make sense. And yeah, you can say it's a movie. You got to have conveniences, but there's too many conveniences in this movie. And this was another one of those movies that had me rolling my eyes. 'Cause I'm like, it just doesn't work like that. Time does not work like that. And it just got too unrealistic. While there is a lot of beauty in this movie, technically, the acting is good. The direction is fairly good. I just I couldn't buy this movie because it just didn't make sense to me. I know a lot of people like this movie. I personally was so disappointed by this movie. I just was like, no. Not that one. Next up, we are going to talk about Wolves. This is from director. What's his name? What's his name? I can't remember. What's the director's name? John Watts, the guy who did the last three Spider-Man movies. Um, and I really have liked John Watts in those Spider-Man movies. His direction has been fantastic. Um, he also did Cop Car, a movie that I really enjoyed, and this was his first, I believe, original movie since Cop Car. He's been stuck in the Spider-Man universe ever since then. And it had Brad Pitt and George Clooney. And I saw the trailer for this. I was like, this is going to be really good. It's fine. It's nothing spectacular. It's nothing rewatchable. It literally is a streaming movie. Um, they were going to put this in theaters and instead decided to put it straight to streaming. I kind of understand why they did that. At the end of the day, I don't want any movie to go straight to streaming. I want it to be in a theater to try to enjoy it that way. Um, but yeah, this is a streaming movie, and I was disappointed by that. I thought it was going to be a really good theatrical release and that I would enjoy it more. At the end of the day, I just did not. Next up is We Live in Time. Any movie with Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh kind of has me going to the theater. I love both of these actors so much, particularly Andrew Garfield. He seems like such a cool dude in real life. He seems like so humble and kind. And I would love to sit with him hang out with him for a day and just pick his brain about the movie industry and such. And he just seems like a fun dude to be around. And so that's why I was really excited for this. And the movie is non-linear for a while until it goes back to being linear for some reason. It just feels like it forgot that it's not supposed to be linear, and then it goes to non-linear. And at the end of the day, this relationship isn't as beautiful as I think it wants us to think it is. The hardships and such that are in this movie aren't exactly as dramatic as you would think they are. The emotions don't just hit like they should. While their chemistry is great, I just didn't think this movie overall was that wonderful. And I wanted it to be so much more because I love these two actors so much and their chemistry is fantastic. the end of the day, it's fine. It's good. Don't get me wrong, it's good. It's better than fine. It's good. It just I wanted it to be so much more, and it wasn't. It was just it was there. Next up, Joker Folie à Deux. Now, I did not love the first Joker. I remember I went and saw it in 2019 with a friend, and we both got out. We were both like, that was not a good movie. I think it gives the first Joker a 3 out of 10. And then I went and saw it a couple more times, and I got it up to a 5. I still think the first Joker is just okay. This movie was a sequel. It's going to have Harley Quinn, um, and it was going to have Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn, and they're going to make it a musical. And I thought, okay, maybe this could be something different and interesting. It was different. It's not interesting. It's really a bore, and it's basically telling you you're stupid for liking the first movie, which I kind of somewhat agree with. I do not think that first one should have been nominated for Best Picture. This one definitely should not be nominated for Best Picture. This should win all the Razzies because OMG, the acting is good in this movie, but at the end of the day, the story is nothing great. The musical numbers are nothing great. This movie just, it's all over the place, really, and I just, what in the world? It felt like half this movie was just previously on Joker. And then, by the way, hey, you like that movie? Well, you're stupid. That's what this movie felt like. Um, so yeah, was not a fan of this movie at all. And the last movie I'm going to be talking about today is Gladiator 2. Ridley Scott has been so hit and miss these last 10, 15 years. It's been so disappointing because he has been such a great director in the past. And at the end of the day, this movie's not bad. I didn't think it was bad at all. I enjoyed this movie for what it is. It is a fun, sword and sandal epic that is super unrealistic, and I thought reminded me a lot of Hunger Games and Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, where they were put into arenas and had to fight magical creatures that literally felt like magical creatures because these rhinos do not look real. These monkeys do not look real. These sharks do not look real. There's a lot of over the top, ridiculous things that happened in this movie. At the end of the day, I don't hate this movie, but the first one won Best Picture. This movie, if it's nominated for Best Picture, that just goes to show you how terrible of a year we've had in movies because this movie should not be nominated for Best Picture. It looks good, don't get me wrong. Production design, costume, I'm okay with that. But as far as giving this movie like a Best Picture nom, should not be doing that. It is over the top, ridiculous, fun. Don't get me wrong, it's fun, but not a movie that not a movie that we should be calling Gladiator 2. It's just another movie that is a sword and sandals epic movie. And it really didn't need to be a Gladiator sequel. But that is also the end of this list. These, like I said, were just movies that really disappointed me this year. I'm sure there's a couple in here that you are screaming at me for, so please go ahead and scream in the comments for me. Maybe you will say something that makes me think differently, and I'll have to go back and rewatch some of these movies and change my mind on it. I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, most of these movies are not bad. They're just eh. And I wanted woo from these. I wanted these to be. I mean, some of these movies are movies that their predecessors I had in my top tens of the year in previous years. Nosferatu, The Northman, I had in my top 10 of 2022. Mad Max Fury Road, it was my number one of 2015. Matthew Vaughn has had great movies. The Planet of the Apes movies, we're not even going to talk about. It's really not on this list. I don't know why it's here. The Maxine movie, though, that should have been so much better. Just movies that should have been so much better, and they were just this year, and that's just so disappointing for me. Um, so yeah, this is my list of disappointing movies this year. I'm going to have videos coming up soon of me talking about some movies that I'm excited for in 2025, movies that I'm not so sure about in 2025, and then I'm also going to have my top 10 and top 10 worst of the year coming up. I'm going to take another week or so to try to figure out what those movies are and try to get a couple more movies in that might make the list or might not. We'll see. So yeah, guys, until then, I hope you guys have yourself a great day. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, and hey, I'll see you next time.